So yeah, hello. That will be a video about the i9 13th and 14th generation from Intel, monolithic CPU designs, particularly nasty for stability, notorious for game crashes and overheating issues. But here in this video, I will show you how to avoid that. And so if you have an ASUS BIOS, the first thing you will do is you will go to the advanced mode and you will go to the AI tweaker. And we'll start one by one. So there's performance preferences. You will set Intel default settings. This will switch it to Intel defaults. Then for the Intel default settings, you will choose extreme instead of performance. This will set it to the right power limits, to the highest that your CPU is designed. For the RAM or AIOC tuner, you will choose XMP 2. 1 or 2, it doesn't really matter that much, but 2 is just generally more stable. Because the difference between 1 and 2 is 1 will be, the RAM will be actually optimized over your BIOS. So your BIOS is calibrating the RAM, and the XMP2 is literally using the timings as the RAM slots came. So it's the profile on the RAM slots itself, but not the BIOS. So the BCLK frequency, we set it to auto, Intel Adaptive Boost auto. So this one here, ASUS multi-core enhancement, that's a setting that I recommend always disabled, because this will overheat your PC pretty much. There's like a lot of options here, just disable it. This SWIT behavior, which will have to do something with your load lines, set it to auto. Everything on auto, right? This will be set by XMP anyways, so the RAM frequency, you don't need to touch it. The first things we will actually change is where we go to DG plus VRAM. Here, we have different options. We will go to CPU load line calibration and set this to level 5. Level 5. We also set sync ACD load line with VRM load line to enabled, because this will actually set the correct DC load line, which is something that will actually set the right amount of vCore. So there's, we go to internal. The next step is go to internal CPU management. Here we put, first of all, we disable the unlimited ICC max. We don't want to draw more current than we need to. We want to limit that to the defaults, which is 400 amps for the i9s, right? The long duration power limit will be by default 253, but just for safety, I type it in manually. The same goes here for the short duration, manually. Bam. So we run on the safe side here. The IAIC load line, you can set it to 04 or 05. Most people will actually run 05 well. For me, it works on 04 as well. This will slightly undervolt your CPU, so it draws less current, less voltage, sorry. But leave the DC load line at auto, because we have set the LLC CPU load line calibration already to level 5, which will automatically adjust this, okay? Now it comes the CEP, the current excursion protection. We can disable that safely, both of them. This will actually give us a performance boost and avoid that the CPU will throttle. The voltage limit, I recommend for the i9s, you can use either 1450, which will be 1.45 volts, or just 1400, 1.4 volts. I personally choose 1.4 volts because I disable the E-cores anyways. The current limit should be motherboard's capability, not Intel's default and not unlimited. Important here. Small thing. So the next thing we will do is we will go to Tweaker's Paradise, and we will find a setting that is very bad for performance, which is the undervolt protection. It sounds like a protection, but it's actually not that useful at all. We disable that to make sure your CPU will not throttle down once the voltage decreases to a certain threshold. So that's also something we want to keep in mind. Lastly, I will go to advanced CPU configuration. This is important, especially with the Intels. You want to make sure the Intel virtualization technology is always set to disabled. This costs 5 to 10% FPS. This will only be enabled if you work with virtual machines. The next step is for gaming. The active efficiency cores, set them to 0, so disable them. Leave hyperthreading enabled. And then we go to CPU power management control. Here, we will leave everything as it is. Beside of where it says enhanced C states, we want to disable them, right? We disable those. We enable the normal C states and set a C state limit to Z0, Z1, the highest or the lowest limit. So we avoid that the clock ratios decrease too much depending on the workload. So that's what it will do. After we have done that, the last step would be Q fan control here. And we can set our fan curves, which I have done. Personally, I set till 45 degree, around 40%. And well, I set the second point at 60 degrees, 67%. And then the last point will be 80 degrees, 100%. And that's what I do with my fans. And then I hit apply, exit. Least but not final thing is like we turn Aurora off. So which means this the RGBs, the resizable bar should be on. And that's it. Then you can hit save and exit. Bam. It will show you the changes you have done. And that's it. I haven't done any because I've saved the profile before. So it will look different for you.